Yes, sir. Screen is
Very,
visible. Yes, sir.
yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Karisiddappa. Thank you very much, all the organizers, particularly Dr. Basuraj Gadge, made it a very, very elaborate introduction. And I was wondering about whom is he introducing. I'm very proud to mention that I am your colleague. All my colleagues over here, good morning to all of you. I'm very happy that Professor B.N. Chatterjee is chairing this particular session. Professor B.N. Chatterjee happened to be my M.Tech thesis examiner. And in fact, even today I recall that immediately after the M.Tech thesis, he just invited me to go over to IIT Kharagpur. But then I had already destined to take up my PhD work with Professor K. Chidananda Gowda, who will be speaking in the next session. May I request all of you to keep the mics mute? It is disturbing me. Okay. Now, before I start my lecture, which as entitled here, Exemplary Practices for Quality Enhancement of Teaching Learning Process. Don't worry about the extension in computer science and IT courses, which I shall be covering towards the end of my lecture. Then I shall be taking up the exemplary practices for quality enhancement. As Professor Karisiddappa has mentioned, what is more important is the combination of pedagogies, which all would ensure the enhancement of the quality in teaching learning process. You should understand that the teaching learning process integrates the assessment of a candidate also, assessment of a learner also. It is not examination, it is not evaluation which will evaluate a learner, but it is teaching, learning and assessment which should go hand in hand. Before I go over to the very first slide, I shall ask all of you one very simple question. All of us are teachers. All of us, perhaps invariably all of us, might have developed a very, very bad habit of after teaching a particular topic, then take up the red chalk, put a star mark, and then tell that this is very important. So I really do not understand when teachers tell that this is important. When a teacher tells that this is important, does it mean that whatever he taught till yesterday were unimportant? And without the input of all whatever were taught till yesterday, only this, what has been taught today, becomes important? And from what sense is it important? Is it important from the point of examination? Because any question paper setter will definitely set a question on this. This is possibly the drawback of the quality in our teaching, because we as teachers also focus our students only towards examination, particularly the semester end examination or the year end examination, and we make them feel that passing an examination is more important. Not only students depend upon old question papers, most of our teachers also, most of us also depend upon old question papers. If old question papers can decide the length and the breadth, the depth and breadth of the syllabus to be covered, then why should there be a board of studies? Why should there be the board of experts who should make the syllabus and who should decide what has got to be taught when? So these are the things which each one of us have got to very seriously think. Probably in next 1 hour or so, I shall be trying to do that, and let us see. And I try to keep my lecture as generic as possible, because this is a keynote address. I shall not deal into very specific aspects, so that if I can drive the philosophy of what is quality for teaching learning process, my job would be done. So now, as I mentioned, the very first important thing that we have been driving is preparing the candidate for examination. Even if a good teacher does not do that at home, certainly mothers would do it, certainly parents would do that, and mothers particularly would force a child right perhaps from LKG up to even possibly beyond MTech also, that she enforces the candidate to prepare for examination. See, where is learning? Preparing for examination is entirely different. That's the reason I shall start with preparing for examination versus the learning process. Let us see what is preparing. Preparing simply tells that make ready for use. That is all. It just keep the things ready for use and for consideration. For example, prepare the slides. Like I have prepared the slides for delivering this lecture. Prepare the operation theater. Like in a subject, like in hospital, it does prepare the operation theater. And then prepare the dining table. Before guests come over, you would ask, you will put your best effort to prepare the dining table. And nowadays, most important is prepare for joint entrance examination, prepare for NEET, prepare for GATE examinations. So these are all preparations. In fact, in our country, people prepare for IAS examination also. So all our IAS products are prepared products. Okay, so prepare for public service examinations. So these are all preparations. May I ask somebody to mute the things. Let the system administrator mute everybody. Okay, and preparation is ultimately what to answer. It is not really to how to answer. Preparation gets into what to answer. Preparation means perfection in replication. So preparation is only aiming at reproduction. So perfection in replication. Preparation makes a lookup table approach. So the lookup table approach simply implies look at the things. Okay? And preparation implies memorizing. Preparation implies just memorizing. Alright? Preparation is just an art. It is just an art. Okay? Let us get into the next. Preparing versus now learning. I'm going to present about learning. Learning is the process of acquiring. See, preparation never aims at acquiring anything. Learning aims at acquiring, most important, new understanding. Learning acquires knowledge. Learning acquires behavior. Learning acquires skills. Learning acquires values, attitudes, and preferences. In fact, today, including engineering colleges, we do a mistake. We tell that learning knowledge is different and picking up skills is different. No, learning knowledge, pick skills, they all should go together. Learning is the process of acquiring, I repeat, new understanding, knowledge, behavior, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences. It is an ability. So learning is an ability. It enables devising a solution to a problem. Remember, in while speaking about preparing, I mentioned that you would understand what to answer. But here, learning enables somebody how to answer. It devises a solution to a problem. In fact, learning implies creative understanding, not simply understanding, creative understanding. Creative understanding encompasses assimilating. Whatever has been taught, it has got to be assimilated. And then it has got to be internalized. It should become part of your thinking process and then inculcated. So learning implies creative understanding. That is very important. So I will just give a very, very simple example. I will just ask a question, what is 7 plus 7? Certainly, immediately somebody will give 14. 14 is the answer. That is the lookup table approach. That is from memory. That is the preparation. But let us see what is learning. If somebody has learned, look, he will convert 7 plus 7 into adding a small component from another 7 to the previous component of 7, so that it becomes a very important intermediate stage. Like he will do this, perhaps he will do this. He will split the next 7 into 3 plus 4, and then he will add that 3 with the first 7, 7 plus 3, so that it becomes 10. And then adding 4 becomes very easy. 10 plus 4 becomes 14. So this is what is the outcome of learning, whereas 7 plus 7, immediately responding it as 14, is a lookup table approach. So this is the way the creative understanding, assimilating, inculcating, everything could just become visible. I'm sure some of you would have done that. So 7 plus 7, you would add 7 plus 3, 10, 10 plus 4, 14, like that. More interesting example could be 7 plus 9. If I give 7 plus 9, immediately people definitely would convert it as 9 plus 7, because adding anything to 9 is very easier, and adding 1 to 9 makes it much easier. So 9 plus 1 becomes 10, and the remaining, which is out of 7, is just 6. Add that 6 to 10 becomes 16. This is the outcome of learning. So 9 plus 7, 7 plus 9 cannot be memorized. It should not be even memorized. Unfortunately, our examination systems always enforce us to memorize, and only our memory is tested. Thank God, national education policy, new education policy has been so strong. Perhaps after 70 years of independence, we have been able to realize that it is not memory which should be tested. It is not rote learning which has got to be tested. And I'm very happy that entire India has for the first time understood that we have done enough stupidity in preparing not only our engineers, in preparing all our so-called educated people through the process of great stupidity called the examination. And now still, when will be that day where we would stop people from preparing for the IAS examination, preparing for a bank examination? Let us see when such a day would happen. I'm sure it is going to happen sooner. Right. Then most important, as I mentioned in learning, is understanding. What is understanding? Understanding is the ability to understand and to comprehend. What is understanding? It makes you to think about it. It makes you to use the concepts. It makes us to deal with the concepts properly and adequately. Is what is the aim of understanding. Understanding in one sitting. We have got to incrementally progress, go in small modules and understand it in incremental way. That is why it is called incremental learning and incremental understanding. In fact, it is a progressive learning. So progressive assimilation has got to take place. To be very simple, you start from the known start point and take the candidate to an unknown novelty. It has got to start from all the known things to him and bridge him into an unknown novelty. That is what is the goal. That is what has got to be the outcome of education. Now, accrediting the learning. When a learner becomes a great performer, please remember this point. When a learner becomes a great performer, it is not taking a rank. It is not by hearting and getting 100 out of 100. I wonder how people can get 100 out of 100 even in language papers like in Hindi, like in Kannada also. So they get 100 out of 100. When a learner becomes a great performer and thus becomes a contributor to the society, that is most important. He must be a performer in the society. He must be a contributor to the society and to the mankind and to the world. Then the purpose of teaching, learning, assessing is accomplished. So that's what the learner and institution are automatically accredited. NBA, NAC, these are all only the intermediate stages. These are all only the tools now which would accredit an institution. But real accreditation comes from the outcome of a learner, and if he is helping the mankind, if he is really contributing to the society, if he really becomes a performer, then the institution is accredited. So that is what is the accreditation of the learning. Okay, what is academy? Academy, please look at this particular definition, which I have very carefully chosen. An academy is an institution associated with the tradition of intellectual brilliance. Please mark this, tradition of intellectual brilliance. It is not just ordinary brilliance. intellectual brilliance, and it should be just a tradition in that institution. Only then such an institution is called an academy. So academy, the intellectual brilliance is surely because of the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Due to the teachers, mainly due to the teachers, and surely due to the learners. So the teachers and learners make a very big combination in making an academy to possess a tradition of intellectual brilliance. The intellectual brilliance happens because of the transformation of a learner into a knowledge practitioner, not a rote learner, not a lookup table, okay, not a memory mapped function. Okay, it's a learner into a knowledge practitioner and definitely a performer. Only then that is called an academy. So I have been emphasizing on the importance of creativity and innovation. That is what is very important. Let us see. Excellence requires, institutions' excellence requires an ever-maintained inspiration to inculcate creativity and innovation. See, these two things have got to go, creativity and innovation. Recall now, when I ask a very simple, very useless question, like how Sita was carried away by Rama. What is that? What is that you are going to test? Is that you are implying a new creativity that everybody should become Ravana and carry away the Sita? Is that the creativity? Are you making everybody to innovate the different methods of carrying away Sita, which we have been seeing all together in always in various newspapers? Is that the creativity and innovation? No, it is not. The teacher has taught it. And why do you again ask the same question in examination? I still cannot understand. Where is creativity? Where is innovation in the answer being invented by a candidate? So excellence requires an ever-maintained inspiration to inculcate creativity and innovation. This can happen by the teachers, by the academicians in the institutions, because this is where the novelty comes in. This is where the new direction comes in, and an academician can only be able to do that. All right? Okay. An academician should be a full member of an academy. He is a full active member of 24/7. Even if I am at home, I should be thinking about how I should be teaching this, how I should be discussing with my students, wherever I am. Even if I am at work, my subconscious should be working on that. So an academician has got to be a full member of an academy. That is most important. And if he is a involved full member of an academy, naturally creativity and innovation should happen. Okay? All right. So on the contrast, let us see the present education system attempts to produce similar products with little creativity and innovativeness. That is what now the new education policy underscores and tells that this should not happen. That is the objective of our new education policy. Unfortunately, till today, the present education system has been attempting to produce very identical products with no creativity, no innovativeness. There is no niche and there is no skill differentiation among them. It is not what I am telling. It has been told by the chairman of former chairman of UPSC, Dr. Agarwal. In fact, even our Gandhiji also has mentioned that. This reminds of what Gandhiji had said about our education. We are producing thoughts, not thinkers. We are producing only thoughts, not thinkers. There is no emphasis on individual aptitude at all. So that is the real drawback. Therefore, all said, but if not done, we all know ideal situation, but then if it is not done, if a teacher does not carry forward the essence to the learners, then what is going to happen? That is what we have been seeing in spite of 70 plus years of India. I am very happy that without mincing words, the new education policy has been so very strong and so very strongly worded. I am very sure we would be, should be possible for us to take forward India to a greater height. So every accomplishing teacher should be critical in his thinking. Please introspect. Are we very critical in our thinking? Are we at least holistically covering the subject? Or are we covering only 5 questions meant for examination? How many times have we not told that till now whatever I have taught covers 3 questions in the examination question paper? Is it not foolishness on our part? Is it a criticality? We should really critically think. The teacher should develop the criticality in his or in her capabilities of thinking. Let us see the next point. The teacher has got to be rational in his approaches. Very, very rational in the approaches. In fact, I have been seeing teachers, we being teachers, we are very irrational in our approaches. We could be irrational, but at least we should not display that irrational nature of ours. For example, I am a great physics teacher. I teach lunar eclipse. I teach solar eclipse. And on the same day of lunar eclipse or solar eclipse, if I go along with my students or in the presence of my students to take a bath in the holy river, holy Ganges, then where is the rationality? So you do it, your practices, your found practices, the patriotic practices you follow, but certain practices when I have understood that it is irrational, at least that I should not display. So every teacher has got to be rational in his approaches, and every teacher has got to be unbiased in his opinions. Can this be possible? After all, we are human beings. That is the reason most of the times I tell my teachers that teacher should strictly be blind. Only when he is blind, he may probably be unbiased, because not many inputs will go through eyes. All biasing inputs will get into the mind mainly through eyes only. So that is where I tell that your eyes should remain closed, so that you really can have very unbiased opinion. A teacher should be very open and capable to promote new ideas. Are we ready to accept that? Are we ready to accept that my students are much better than myself? Are we ready to receive the new ideas from my students? That's exactly a good teacher has got to do. I'm sure if these are practiced, one can be a very excellent teacher. In other words, a teacher has got to be a constant thinker. He has got to be a constant thinker. He has got to be a logical dreamer. Or in other words, he has got to be a great tapasvi. Okay, so a teacher has got to be a great researcher. That doesn't mean that he should work for PhD. I'm not telling that he should have acquired a PhD degree. Many people who might have acquired a PhD degree may not be good teachers, may not be good researchers also. One should have earned PhD. So if one has earned PhD, then perhaps he will be a lifelong researcher. And a lifelong researcher is a constant thinker and a logical dreamer. And he is fit to become a great teacher. This is very, very much necessary for a teacher, because he is the one who builds tomorrow. See, a judge will work for today, a doctor will work for today, a district commissioner will work for today, a police officer will work for today, but a teacher will not work for today. He works to build up a tomorrow. He is the one who builds up a tomorrow, and he is the one who really architects a new generation. So if we keep this in mind, then automatically the new pedagogies will be evolved by every teacher. And that's why rightly in National Policy for Education, new policy for education, it has been emphasized that every institution shall be autonomous and every teacher shall be autonomous in following his teaching, learning mechanisms. And that is where every teacher has got to be very creative. Please look to this particular slide. very, very carefully. It could hurt your feeling, but I would be very happy to hurt you in case it is not really meant to hurt anybody. If that can drive all of us into right direction, I would be very happy. The added dimension should be a teacher should not control. In fact, we seem to control a lot. Our students should not control. And in fact, a teacher is a person who should loosen the knot. See, you just imagine when you go to a doctor, immediately he will not come with a thermometer. Immediately he will not come with a BP measuring apparatus. He would just talk to you, and in fact, he would lose the buttons also. He would just unbutton your shirt also. So he would loosen the knot. That is what is most important. A teacher should also do it. Should loosen the knot. A teacher should be a facilitator. He is not a big Brahma, but he tells where Brahmatsa will be available, where Brahmaknanam will be available, should be a facilitator. All right, should kindle fire in the sparking brains. The sparking brains should just become great, like Arjuna became a great person, like even Karna, his teacher made Karna a very great person. So should kindle fire in the sparking brains, should cause vibrations even in the dull brains. A good teacher is the one who can cause really the vibrations even in the dull brain. That is what is the most important. From where can this fire come? Naturally, from a teacher. It is obviously from a teacher, but how this fire could come? A teacher, now please read this carefully, a teacher should first be clear. It should be very clear, why should this be done? I'm sure I'm just touching you. Why should this be done? Would any teacher understand before going into the class? Why any teacher has comprehended? Have we understood why this has got to be taught? Should be understood by us first. That is most important. And why should this be taught in 5th semester? Why should this be taught before that? Why data structure should be taught before algorithms? Why algorithm should be taught before something? Why this should be taught? That is what a teacher has got to be understood. Okay, he has got to understand that. Assuming, please excuse me for for this sentence, what should be taught is known. I hope most of the teachers will not fall into this category, but there are some teachers who may not be knowing what should be taught also. So a teacher should be very clear. What should be taught should be known to him first, and why should that be taught should also be understood by him. So a teacher should be very clear about why and what, and then he can plan how, when, and where should this spark be kindled. That's what you are going to hear in the next exemplary sessions of tomorrow, day after tomorrow. They would take up different subjects and they would start telling you how, when, where the spark should be kindled in the students. And naturally, if whatever they teach have got to be successful, we should understand these two, what and why should that be taught. Probably our exemplary teachers would also touch upon why that has got to be taught. Let us introspect now. Till now, what is happening? Let us introspect. Are we effectively transforming our students as knowledge practitioners? No. We are transforming them as exam practitioners. We are transforming them as test practitioners. So internal tests. In fact, you announce the internal test, the previous class they bunk also. Examination you announce, they tell that there should be at least 2 alternate days of holidays between the examinations. So we are not effectively transforming our students as knowledge practitioners. A knowledge can be tested anytime, and a person who is knowledgeable will be able to answer at any point of time. The questions come into life at any point of life. Remember, recall Abdul Kalam, in real life, question paper is served first and then nature teaches you. Unfortunately, in our schooling system, in our education system, we teach them first and then conduct the examination on what has been taught, but still we don't get 100% result. Okay, all right. Are our students merely loaded with information and compelled to memorize the whole lot of them? Yes, that is all what we have been doing. We have been very, very successful in doing that. And I'm very happy when I read the national education policy. It clearly tells reduce the content, increase the values, reduce the content, and increase the assimilation. That is at least now we have understood. I'm very happy. So we are loading them with information, and because information is overloaded, we just compel them to memorize the whole lot of them. That's all. Have we been successful in elevating our students to such a level that they could critically assimilate? No, not at all. Whatever they have gathered, they have simply gathered and they have put it into memory. They don't assimilate, critically assimilate. We should have elevated our student to such a level. Let us introspect that. Now, are our students augmented with such talent to acquire skills that can make things happen? That's more important. Can we make them? Can we acquire skills? In fact, unfortunately, we call some other set of teachers from outside as if our internal teachers do not have the skill set at all. We bring teachers from outside and conduct skill classes. And I really feel pity of all those institutions and all those great thinkers who think that skill can be taught. Skill cannot be taught. Skill has got to be acquired. Skill is an intrinsic property. Skill is an ability to transform knowledge into performance. And that ability comes from within. And it comes because of the great teachers. There cannot be different set of teachers called skilled teachers and set of teachers called knowledge teachers. And that is this type of discrimination which we are doing really is highly injustice. And let us introspect on all these issues. Okay. So in fact, look at this diagram. The knowledge is that the learner should go on to the top of the hill. Definitely, he has got the tool set, all the tool sets. He should be introduced to all the tool sets. And of course, he should be given the entire knowledge also about that. But then, unfortunately, we misunderstand the tool set itself is the skill set. For example, particularly these computer science and IT boys, you look at their resume. In their resume, they write in the skill set C++. They write in the skill set Python. Which great fool has told that C++ is a skill set? C++ is a tool set. And the skill is your ability to write an excellent code. That is your ability. Therefore, a student should be able to, a learner should be able to use the tools properly. To do what? To build up a way to go on to the hilltop without putting himself into the difficulty of walking through all this bad portion to go on to the hilltop. He has got to do that. That is what is real education. So it is a transformation of knowledge into action through all the tool sets, which requires your ability, intrinsic ability called skill. And these are the things which have got to be picked up by education. And on the other hand, today, he symbolizes the teacher. This person symbolizes the teacher. He tries to jack up the student. You should not do this. This is the incorrect model of imparting the education. It is not pulling up your student. It, in fact, a teacher should be standing here. He should push the student up. Do you know one important reason why a teacher should stand behind a student? In case a student slips back, the teacher should be able to hold him and hold him safely in that position itself, so that the student, my learner, shall not fall flat on the ground. So this is a very incorrect model. The right model should be that the teacher should be behind and should be able to push the person. Remember what I said earlier, incrementally, push a candidate incrementally, and just don't hold him, leave him, check if he is going to fall back. If he is going to fall back, just give him the total support. That's the type of teaching learning model which has got to be envisaged. All right, okay. It will facilitate students to acquire the talent of skills required for designing, devising, and conducting practicals and case studies and field studies. Even today, one I cannot understand is chemistry practicals. See, when you, before you go to chemistry practicals, you remember that your teacher will give you a detailed procedure. Then what is the question of practicals? Every procedure is given to you. What is that you are going to do? Have you designed the practicals? Have you devised the practical? Are you going to conduct? Are you just going to conduct like a laborer would do a job? Please understand that. Okay. And then the intelligence to critically study a subject. This is more important. So the intelligence has got to be nurtured to critically study a subject from research perspective to acquire the knowledge, not from examination perspective to memorize whatever has been taught, but from the creative perspective, research perspective to acquire the knowledge. These two things should happen when we adopt the new teaching learning mechanism. You know, this is what has got to happen. Let's go further. All that I am telling is teachers should act. The teacher should perform this act. What is act? Act is ability. A stands for ability to critically think. Ability to critically think is act. So what is criticality? Criticality should be in thinking, should be in critically analyzing, should be in carefully planning, should be in creatively exploring. Even in examination, even without the question paper, our students would start writing the answers. If the question paper, the moment the question paper is, even without reading a question fully, if our students can write the answers, then where is the question of carefully planning? So at least after reading the question, the teachers, the students should be able to carefully plan, and this carefully planning happens when the questions are completed and the teachers and the students have understood what has got to be done. All right. So assessment. Now I don't call it as examination. I don't really love to call it as examination. I don't really call it try to call it as evaluation. I would call it as assessment. Assessment has to become more continuous, not based on usual tests and examination. It should be more continuous. That's what Professor Karisiddappa was asking. So in this pandemic situation or in this technology enabled situation, how should the assessment be? Assessment has got to be continuous. It should not be based on some stupid tests or stupid examination. They don't really test anybody. They will just test your ability to perform on that day. That is all. And your ability to reproduce from the memory on that day. That is what is the assessment. In fact, you have been seeing the debate now that it has landed into Supreme Court also, whether an open book examination should be there or should not be there. This is another important point. Should we have the education to be decided by courts, judges? What are we then? What are we doing then? All right. We have got to carefully assess. So the assessment has got to be more continuous. In fact, the student should not even know that he is being assessed. That is more important. Okay. In fact, we have been practicing at IIIT Allahabad. Our other people who are now going to be in the panel will definitely tell you how our assessments have been very novel ways. So assessment should be outcome expected. It should be based on outcome expected, and it should be based on learner's orientation. The examination question paper should not be to demonstrate the intelligence of a teacher, but to understand the orientation of the learner. So outcome expected and the learner's orientation, both of them should get interleaved when the assessment of a candidate happens. This is the real philosophy of assessment. It is not the BOE, great BOE. And many of us fight that why I have not been made the member for BOE, why I have not been made the chairman, why am I not the paper setter, in spite I have got such an experience. Paper setting, what sort of paper setting? You please see the type of paper setting that explain with a neat diagram. Okay, how can it assess the ability of a candidate? Such a question. And another foolish, interesting, lovely question towards the end of the question paper: write short notes on any four. Write short notes on any four, and that is probably the most favorite question for any student. That is where he starts. Okay, so now assessment has got to be on his ability to work. Ability to work. This is more important, not the actual answer. The ability to work, that has got to be assessed. So what is work? Please, pay your interesting attention towards this. Work is thinking. Assessment of thinking has got to happen. The thinking process cannot be penned down anywhere. That is where the teacher has got to observe. That is where the teacher has got to understand whether I have been able to put my student into the real thinking. Assessment of thinking has got to happen. That is the work. Assessment has got to be the ability to create. After thinking, the candidate will definitely create a solution. So he has got to create a solution. Assessment has got to be, for creating, he has got to carefully plan a solution, carefully plan a model. That is what has got to be assessed. Not the ready-made answer which is produced from the memory. Carefully he has got to plan, and that is what has got to be assessed. Assessment then has got to be how can he implement his created plan, and that created plan comes because of his thinking, the novelty in thinking and the way he implements. And in implementation, obviously, skill of implementation automatically comes over there, and that is what has got to be assessed. That is the implementation. Then how will he carry out? After implementation, how will he carry out? That is important. And then how will he perform? And then how will he execute? So these are the things which have got to be assessed. Naturally, how will he reproduce? What is reproduction is, I do not mean that he has got to reproduce from memory. I'm trying to tell how his experiment, whatever he has designed, is so sure enough that it can be reproduced by anybody else. So it must be that transparency in the model. It must be that ease of understanding that model which has got to be conveyed by the student, and that has got to be assessed. Okay, that has got to be assessed. So how he has ultimately internalized. This is more important. People are very big sales engineers, but these sales people are able to convince you, but are they convinced? So almost all of our students in examinations are just great salesmen, and they do a lot of sales on the answer book and get good marks. But have they really understood?
Sir, yes. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sir, your slide is not visible, sir. Just now it got disconnected.
Why I should make it again?
Yes, sir. Mukesh ji, please reshare the slide.
I'm doing.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir. Yes.
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible.
Go to the slide quickly. Work. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes,
So,
sir.
now assessment, the nature of assessment, we think that the examination and test. So the internal assessment is because of two tests we conduct, and examination, the semester end examination. But that is not the real. You have seen the national education policy that summative assessment, so-called examination, should be at the minimum, and maximum effort should be towards the formative assessment. So if you take up anything in life, the nature is First is planning and execution. You must have seen it in my previous slide also, when I mentioned about work, planning and then execution, thinking, planning and execution should be assessed. I mentioned about that. Planning and execution can be independent. A single candidate should do it, or a group of candidates can do it. Have you given the group assignments? No, not at all. Have you given the group examinations? No, not at all. It is all individual. So planning and in fact, planning and execution takes lot of time. Therefore, while I am teaching, during the course of my teaching, I should set up such assignments that a student should spend, group of students should spend more time on thinking, planning, implementing, and executing. Definitely that would take enough time. In fact, one cycle of problem solving surely takes minimum 15 days at least. In fact, when I start my job, or when an engineer starts his job, naturally he will be given mostly the planning work only. So he has got to do this planning and execution, and that has got to be assessed. So it is in planning and it is in implementing, it is in the thinking that the entire solution becomes possible, or the formative assessment is more important. This refers to formative assessment. So it can be because of a group, it can be because of independent assignments can also be possible, but I would definitely tell it has got to be a group, and the teacher should be smart enough to find out who is performing in the group, who is the contributor in the group, who is a visiting professor in the group, and who is a silent professor in the group, and who is the person who is taking the advantage of the group. That is what a teacher has got to understand. But the advantage of group is even the dull person in the group will get inducted into some sort of thinking because he is now learning from his own peers in the group. That's what is going to happen. So this is what largely makes the formative assessment. Now, other is equally important, the crisis handling. The bridge has collapsed. Now, my engineers has got to rush to that. Like China war suddenly broke out. Then my army has got to go over there. Suddenly a tree has fallen. What has got to be done? Corona has set in. What the doctors have got to do? This is crisis handling. Our examination, semester examination should simulate this crisis handling. Every question set in the examination must be a crisis for the candidate. The candidate should start sweating. The candidate should start scratching. This candidate should start planning, and that has got to be experienced by every student, and any crisis has got to be handled in delta t units of time, in a very small interval of time. The success of handling the crisis is within the time limit he has got to handle that. That is why your examination has got to be only 2 hours or only 3 hours. But unfortunately, we prepare our student for writing the examination. In fact, okay in professional colleges, but look at the schools. They tell that they complete the syllabus by December, and from December till March, they prepare them for examination. They prepare them for the exam. What the height of stupidity? To what level have we brought down the nation? That has got to be very shameful on our part, and we the educated people will take our children and put our children into such convents and to such dirty schools where we are very proud that our students are going to complete the syllabus by December itself, by November itself. Henceforth, from November onwards, they will be preparing for examination, question paper after question paper. Can crisis be prepared? One has got to understand. Have we simulated crisis in the question paper? No question in the question paper simulates a crisis. I would just challenge every day of the teacher to think, is it possible at least to set one question in question paper such that whatever a legible student thinks and writes becomes an answer, not what you want. Whatever he thinks and writes should become an answer, and that is where crisis handling is also different from a student to a student, from a learner to a learner, from a thinker to a thinker, and he should be able to handle this crisis at that 3 hours of work. A heart patient taken to the hospital, the doctor and the nurse together have to act within that next 20 minutes. That is what is crisis handling, and that our summative examination should be able to do that. If summative examination can do that, then it is crisis handling which is tested, and formative assessment is to test his ability to think, to plan, to implement, to execute, which surely would take enough time. Naturally here, there is no fear of time, whereas here the person has got to do within that time. But then when should the crisis testing should happen? Naturally, it is based on an examination day, but the examinations themselves can be multiple in number, because on that day, any student may not be ready to take up the crisis. Understand that student is still in his formative stage. He is not a ready-made engineer. He is not an experienced person to go and battle in the battlefield ready. But then that is where we have got to prepare him. To prepare him, a summative examination is required. A summative challenge is required, but that should be more a challenge. But a failure in handling the challenge is not a failure. Like now what is happening, a failure in examination is a bad part. It is definitely the one which is going to decide the future of a candidate. That should not happen. In fact, the more larger part of the student has happened in thinking, planning, implementing, and execution, which is because of the formative assessment. Rightly, new education policy is right now in focusing on formative assessment, and defocusing on examination. I'm very, very proud that all my colleagues in IIIT Allahabad have been working very strongly, have implemented very powerfully this continuous assessment, which is the formative assessment, and they have de-emphasized the importance on the examination. They have de-emphasized the examination to an extent of, some of them have brought it down to as low as 20% only. So the 20 to 40% only is the final examination, whereas 60 to 70% to 80% is planning and execution. That is where the system has got to undergo a massive change. So in other words, CAP, identify the capability, identify the capability, nurture the ability, enhance the performability. That is what has got to happen. It is not that testing him and then putting him into a crisscross position and then telling him that you are unsuccessful. Identify the capability, nurture the ability, outcome, live to the outcome. That is the outcome based, nurture the ability, enhance the performability. So CAP, that is what has got to happen. Learner based assessment, not mass centric assessment. So I should not set a question paper so that the evaluation of the answer by me becomes easier. It has got to be able to assess the performance of the learner. Learner based assessment, not the mass centric assessment mechanism. Okay, so let's see now. So what is learning? Learning is making somebody foundation strong. That is what is understanding. Unless the foundation is strong, you cannot build up a beautiful building later. Okay, foundation strong. Understanding has got to become very strong, and application of understanding to the happening is the ability to implement. That's what is, that is where is the skill set starts working, is the ability to transform the foundation into implementation has got to happen. Or in other words, understanding should get morphed into happening. And of course, naturally here, the students, the learners have got to use several tools also. But only these two will not make learning. The learning will be complete only when a student can generate new knowledge. So the happening should pave way to creating the new knowledge. That is what is learning. Learning is understanding and then making it happen, and making it happen shall also imbibe the vibes in a candidate to create the new knowledge. So foundation strong, ability to implement and generate new knowledge. Okay, learning, obviously, another point. See, our learning system, our learning mechanism is predominantly because of lecture classes. 4 hours of lecture. Thermodynamics is also taught by 4 hours of lecture. Computer programming is also taught by 3 hours of lecture. In fact, we have followed a new principle that monologue. All lecture classes are monologue. Only teacher keeps on speaking and student keeps on sleeping or keeps on listening. Okay, so the lecture sessions, that is the exposure, the monologue should get reduced, dialogue should get increased, tutorials should be increased, lecture sessions should be decreased. So lecture sessions will expose a student to the width of what has got to be learned. Tutorial, the dialogues will take the candidate to the depth, and he will reinforcement of what has got to be learned should happen in tutorial. Tutorials is the depth session, the dialogue sessions, and then the next is participation section. The participation is called practice, or what you call it as practicals. So that is where the skill development has got to happen. Unfortunately, we write the syllabus for practicals. Very shameful. Syllabus for practicals. The teacher who delivers the lectures here will definitely tell, test this, practice this, identify this, test, demonstrate this. That is what has got to happen, and there is no syllabus for practicals. And our great universities think of writing down the syllabus also for practicals. So syllabus for theory and syllabus for practicals cannot be, it is a broad coverage of what has got to be learned. That is more important. Again, monologue has got to be reduced, dialogue has got to be increased, participation has got to be enhanced, which leads, the monologues will lead to exposure of the subject, the dialogues will reinforce the candidate, and the practice will make him to acquire the skill. So the LTP, lecture, tutorials and practicals. Please look at this slide very, very carefully. All right, the lecture session has got to be, to facilitate exposure, should be minimized. Please note that, should be minimized. All right, tutorial session and practice sessions to be maximized, and they are exploring the depth. Tutorial session explores depth, seeks clarity, assimilates, the extending the horizons, enhancing the thinking, assimilation takes place. The tutorial session, not necessary that this should take place in classroom, not necessary that it should happen in campus, it need not happen in department lab, it can happen on sites, it can be through mini internships, it can also be through the tech-savvy learning environment today. Today we have all tech-savvy packages, and it can be on simulated packages on the system also. Validating, practicals is for validating, perfecting, becoming skillful. That is the aim of all practice sessions. Can also be supplemented largely through online simulations and animations. These are the ones which kept our students going very strong in spite of pandemic. We have not postponed the sessions at all. We have declared the results of all the ongoing semester. We were fortunate enough even to conduct the summer semester for our dropped candidates. Later, now right from day before yesterday, we have started our new semester also, so-called online. That's only because we have been implementing. I'm very happy that my colleagues have responded to this model and they have been doing it very well. Okay, so now this is what is the LTP, and what is the whole purpose of LTP. The whole purpose of LTP should be to maintain the mode of learning continuity. Continuity in the mode of learning is maintained, and continuity, even assessment of a learner should be truly continuous. To be precise, the learner should not even feel that he is being assessed. So assessment should imply providing a constructive feedback to the learner, because he has got to reach that level, outcome he has got to reach. Okay, so learners should become performers, and transformation is caused by teachers. A future performer is the present learner. A teacher is the one who creates the future performer. I shall skip this slide and I shall get into this. Therefore, change is the only permanent thing. Change is the only permanent thing. Academic reforms have to happen continuously, and every teacher is autonomous in thinking. Every teacher has got to be strong in thinking, and that is the reason I told an academician is a full-time member, and that creates an institution of excellence. Goal to be achieved is accomplishing world-class standard in academia and research. Okay, world-class standard in academia and research. Unfortunately, look at this: curriculum, instruction, learning, and assessment. Traditionally, instructional planning is divided into three components: curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Now look here. Curriculum in any university system has got to be done by Board of Studies, and then it has got to be accepted by the Academic Senate. All these things will happen, let us say, this year. And then it comes into institution only after 2 years. So instruction happens only after 2 years. And then how is assessment happening? It is a mass central valuation. Who teaches will not assess. That is what is happening. Okay, that has got to be overcome. That is where autonomy in practicing the teaching learning has got to happen. Unfortunately, these components are approached as three separate sequential steps, with assessment being the finished line. Assessment is not the end line. It is always together. It is an integrated package. A rigorous and relevant education is a product of effective learning, which takes place when standards, curriculum, instruction, and assessment interrelate and reinforce each other. That has got to happen. When assessment is viewed as the end goal or finish line, what becomes important is only test and not learning. Test, preparing for the test becomes the end point. That's what. Therefore, all of them have got to be interleaved. That is the reason I already told the present education system simply aims at building the similar products. So I shall now, in the next few 20 minutes, I shall be little more focused towards some illustrations from computer science, more specifically from algorithms. I would just take up a simple example. Let us assume that I do not have the star operation at all to multiply. Okay, and I want my student to multiply 98.1 with 12.34, and on my computer the star mark, or in my compiler, or in my C language, or in my Python language, the star is not supported at all. Let us see. That is how I have got to compel a student to start thinking. Okay, I want to multiply 98.1 with 12.34. The very first job, please recall what your primary school teacher has taught. Primary school teacher taught you to remove the decimal point. It's so easy. Remove the decimal point, I have told. All right. How will you do that? What sort of algorithm has got to be written to remove the decimal point? Have we taught that? Has it been taught in our algorithm class, or has it been challenged to our student? I don't think even our MTech students will be able to take up this problem and do it quickly. All right, given a time, they may be able to do it, but this is the first point. Remove the decimal point and transform it. But still, the multiplication is 981 multiplied by 1234. That is not the way we multiply. When the multiplication happens, we convert it into 981 multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4. So a number should be converted into digits, independent digits. So again, naturally, the student has got to separate a number into the digits, and then I got to multiply. Note that multiplication sign is not available at all, and all that a student has got to do is a very simple thing. Please note it here, how the entire concept of data structure comes over here. See, you know, my teacher has start from 4, start with the 4, okay? And I have used the color code. I'm sure color is being seen by all of you. And this color, this is a pointer. This color is a pointer, and that pointer inducts a pointer here. All right. You call it as a stack, you call it as a list, and this is what is going to be filled up. This horizontal list is going to be filled up How is it going to be filled up? Note here, this is number 1, therefore this is number 1, the first row. This is the first number and this is the first row, first digit and the first row. And now what is going to happen? Look, this gets multiplied with this. This pointer multiplies this pointer. And the answer will be kept here. All right. So 4 into 1. I don't have the multiplication. 4 into 1, I can convert it as addition. It is very easy because it's one single digit and one single digit. So adding 4 times 1 or adding 4 only one time is easier. And therefore, it results in addition. No multiplication sign is used. And that gets filled up here. The answer is here. And now you can see here, the next one, the pointer moves over here and this pointer moves over here. This gets multiplied with this and that becomes a number. 9 8s are 32. 32 should be separated out. 3 should be kept as a carry and 2 will be passed down here. Not here. It's a very wonderful exercise only on pointers and only on the movement. Okay, this is what my primary school teacher, what my middle school teacher has taught me, and that has got to become algorithm. And we straight away teach the existence of a star operator. We should put them into such a crisis. Ask him to plan. How will we do when a star mark will not be available? Now we have understood this pointer, green pointer moves now, and the next is filled up, and then that green pointer is towards the end. I understand that, therefore the carry will be flushed to this place, and that's what is happening. And I will show the next cycle. This pointer now is recovered back. The pointer comes back, whereas this pointer moves now, and the pointer moves to the second position, and therefore the second stack or the second list is ready and blocking the first position because it is a second position. Therefore the filling has got to start from the second position in the second stack, second position in the second stack. So simple. All right, so now the same cycle repeats, and that's what is repeating. You can see it now, and that's what exactly end of that stack, end of that list. Therefore it flushes, and that's what is happening. Now you look at for the third time, this is the third pointer, and then this gets filled up, and then it is the fourth pointer that gets filled up now. Now beauty is I have filled up horizontal list. The same thing now will become vertical data structure. Horizontal data structure becomes the vertical data structure, and again it is only addition which happens, and then beautifully the answers are completed. Okay, now still the answer is 1 2 1 0 5 5 4. That is not the answer for 98.1 multiplied by 12.34 and bring back the decimal point. You have got to bring back the decimal point. You have got to do that. That's the assignment. Surely he needs more than a week. 1 week is definitely required, and later you can drive him into many advanced aspects. For example, why should I do it sequentially? Why should I fill up the first stack first? Why should I not fill up the third stack? Why should I not fill up the second stack? It are all independent. And why can I not do it concurrently? I can fill up the first stack, second stack, third stack, fourth stack concurrently. That's the parallel processing. That is the distributed processing. That takes you to the greater heights of your computing. That is how the imagination in the student has got to be built up. So it's a very simple problem. I will take you to more challenging problem. The next 10 minutes, an efficient search strategy. Which is the efficient search strategy? If the list is a sorted list, if given the list is a sorted list, immediately you will tell that it is binary search is the most efficient strategy. And I cannot even understand that how binary search is the most efficient strategy. Just because it can search in login time complexity, we think that it is the most efficient. No, it is not at all intelligent. It does not understand at all. For the first time, when I am searching 22 also, let us say in that list I am searching for 22 also, it will go to the mid of the list and then start searching. And now next time when I search also, it has not even remembered that is not in the mid of the list, it is in the somewhere else. It cannot even make use of the knowledge. So can there be, you have seen the kingfisher, you've seen the kingfisher. The kingfisher will keep on flying on the sea or will keep on flying on the river, and the moment it gets into water, 100%, 99% sure that in the beak of the kingfisher there will be a fish. Can I design such an algorithm that I keep on flying, and if I want 22, I should dip at the position 3, bring out 22. Can that be possible? Ask our students to think. Let us see whether it is possible or not. So, is it possible? If the key is 31, is it possible to land on position 6 or land on position 7 and then tell that 31 is not found? Can be possible, provided I understand the distribution in this database. I understand. So I am leading into machine learning with a simple example. Can I make my machine to understand the nature of input data? It should be possible because data set is available at the beginning and searching is done frequently on the database. Let us see now how I can do this machine learning. So the machine becomes two stage now. One is first learning or understanding the database called cognition. It is machine learning about the database, and then searching the key called recognition. Searching the key will be the recognition stage. Let us see how I can do. I've used a very simple strategy. This is the data, 1, 2, at the positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the data, and I know that this is the ascending order. These are all the data points. You can understand that. I have just plotted a location counter versus the element value. A scatter diagram has been prepared. Now you can see the nature that it is ascending order. Of course, it can be a descending order. All right. What I do is a very simple thing. I fit the best line of regression. So regression is the medium of learning about the ascent of the data. So regression line. What is the regression line? Regression line is of the form y is equal to mx plus c. M is the intercept of the ascent. Okay. Y is equal to mx plus c. All right. Now what is y equal to mx plus c going to do? Now you are searching. What are you searching? You are searching a x value. All right. You are searching the position of an x value. What is y value? Y gives the position of the value. Mx plus c. X is the content. So now when I give a new value of x, m is known, c is known, x is also known because you are searching for that. Therefore, the probable location y is understood. Then why should I need the binary search? Have we not? Can we not make the machine to do that? So all that I have done is this. So y is equal to mx plus c. When the key is given, mx becomes y minus c. X is equal to y minus c by x. So most probable location is simply found out. That's all. Okay. All right. So let me see now what's going to happen. In other words, when y is equal to 22, you do that trick. Just substitute 22 minus c divided by m. It gives you 3. Go to location 3, you will find 22. So simple. Land on location 3, and in this case, element is found in the first search itself. All right. It is not binary search. It doesn't need login. It is intelligent. Machine learning, and machine has become intelligent, right? Okay. So what I have done? So 22 is the y value which is given key value, and I project it onto the line of regression and then project it down to the x value, x-axis, which gives me the location number. Most probable location is 3. That's all. Very simple. And let us see. If the key is 31, I know that 31 is not present. My system should land either on 6th position or on the 7th position. It now lands on the 6th position. Now 6th is 30. Number less than what I am searching, 31. Therefore, an up search is wanted. So that tells that you do one up search or one down search, but it is up search because where I have landed is less than 31. So if I go one step ahead, I will find that I don't find 31. That's so interesting. I have given you another example. This is what is 31. I project it, it becomes 6, and then 6 tells that it is 30. What I am searching is 31, therefore I got to go in next and then check. Within 1 or 2 searches, the whole thing is done. I have given you one more example. Look, such a wonderful concept. Okay, it is making the machine learn about the database, and that is done by the regression line. Here I have proposed it as a regression line. Well, then you could immediately ask me the question, what's going to happen if the database is too big? Well, if the database is too big, you need not learn. You need not learn with all the data. You can learn with a few data only. For example, you can learn with 10% of data, and then you can learn with 20% of data. You can learn with 30% of data and find out. And then, should it always be a perfect line? No, it need not be a perfect line. You can model it as a piecewise linear model also, the entire database, and searching becomes very quick also. All right. Well then, for the want of time, I'm going quick, but all that I'm telling you is there is enough scope to instigate a candidate to think in very differently. Think very differently. Not necessarily that they should be available in the textbook, but then the concept, the knowledge building has got to happen. Okay. All right. I will give you another challenging sorting problem. Look at this. Okay. The moment I tell that is sorting, always tell that quick sorting, whip sorting, etc., etc. But here, look at, I give you the coordinates of a hexagon. And note that this is a regular hexagon, x1, y1, and this is x4, y4, x6, y6. So input is the unsorted sequence, v1, v2, v3, v4, v5, and v6. Now you should give me the output as a sorted sequence which satisfies the traversal. So first one should be V1, second one should be V4, third one should be V6, fourth one should be V2, fifth one should be V5, last one should be V3. That is the sorting I want. Have we done that? Can we do it? But clue is, I have made it as the vertices of a regular hexagon. Okay, think over it. Okay, I want either a clockwise traversal sorting or anti-clockwise traversal segment. So it is not just sorting that we do, it is not that sorting that we teach, but we have got to really challenge them, because sorting simply tells creating a new sequence from the old sequence, right? That's what it has got to happen. Let me go to little more difficult problem. So now the points are on the circumference of a circle, but then not at equal distances, but unequal distances. Okay, the points have 2D coordinates, x1, y1, x4, y4, etc. And I have got to sort it either in a anti-clockwise traversal sequence or clockwise traversal sequence. Okay, think. Today afternoon you have enough free time. Solve this problem, at least feel like solving this problem. Then you will realize that it is not examination which is important, it is involving the brain and making the brain to think which is important. Okay, so one more challenging sorting problem. I will give a very simple problem, very simple sorting strategy. Look at this. This is unsorted. I know that this is a totally unsorted set of elements. But then, how do I know that this is unsorted element? That is the very first question. But then, although it is unsorted, look at it very carefully. It has got all these sorted subsets. See, 10, 12, 51 is sorted subset. 15, 66, 70 is a sorted subset. 41, 22, 19 is sorted. Of course, no doubt it is descending. While these two were ascending, this is descending. See here, 43, 71, 75, 82, 96, it is ascending. See. So, where have we taught our students that an unsorted list is a sequence of sorted subsets? That's all. A sequence of sorted subsets. So, these are already sorted, and then all that we need to do is only merge, and then I get a sorted sequence. It may be inefficient, but then it's a very good starting point. So, people should be able to think. That is all. So, all that we have got to do is we have to encourage them to think, and then they will write the code, and then they will implement it and show it, and then you ask for a discussion, and that is what has got to be assessed. That is all. Now I am running out of time, therefore I shall not. I shall leave these questions. I think all of you have have read, taught heaps. how to search an element, how to search an element in a heap, how to extract the third largest, not the first largest. Even if it's a large type, I'm asking the question, how to extract the third largest, okay? I'm asking the question, how to extract the fifth largest. I'm not asking the first largest. It is a large type of heap, and my question is, how to extract the smallest. I'm giving the large type of heap. How to merge two heaps. Okay, these are the questions. I'm sure it will not be found in any textbooks. It is not even found in the books like No. It will not be found in the very good books like Goodman or whatever it is. But then the teacher has got to create. Okay, this is a teacher who can make. Therefore, teacher has got to be very, very active. That is where I told teacher is a full-time academician. Okay, all right. Now look at our practical examinations, the way we are conducting it. Okay, they are all waste of time, waste of energy, waste of everything, because practical examination, again we have a syllabus and the same question will be given, and the student will either do the cheating of copying the program which is already present, or will by heart reproduce the by hearted question. We don't have, in our university examination system, we don't have even the courage to give a very modified question for which the code has got to be written afresh in the examination. Okay, we are afraid because the students would go on strike. We are afraid that they would go and meet the controller of examination with a complaint that it is out of syllabus. Okay, so if that is the thing, how can the assessment be possible? So the practicals and practical examinations have simply become the jokula. They are not really serving the purpose of real teaching and learning. And less said about the question papers is better, but continuous assessment will definitely make a teacher to stand on his toes, to invent the questions where the thinking ability of a candidate would be put into harness. Okay, that's good. Thank you. In fact, this is my favorite line. A corrupt education system will breed corrupt minds all round. A corrupt education, if the education system itself will be corrupt, not only the next generation will be spoiled, but it also breeds corrupt minds all round. Evil results when good men and women like you who have been so curiously listening to this lecture do nothing. Evil results when good men and women do nothing. I'm very sure all of you are registered for this workshop or for this faculty development program because you want to do good, and doing good starts from vibrant thinking. I'm very sure all of you are committed to do that vibrant thinking. Thank you very, very much for such a patient listening.
Thank you, Professor Nagabhushan, for
Thank you,
your
sir.
excellent presentation. Excellent
you.
presentation about teaching, learning, assessment, whatnot. You have given a lot of ideas, lot of new ideas. You have introduced some of the concept of our new education policy, which is very relevant for this audience, great audience. And therefore, you have provoked all of us, including me, to think in your line. Although there can be debate, there can be some other ideas also, which can be merged along with your ideas.
Yes.
And definitely what you have thought is for the betterment, particularly teaching and learning.
Yes, sir.
Your few problems or few algorithms which you mentioned is very thought-provoking. Thought-provoking means as many faculty members are from computer science and engineering, they will take this problem in this spirit and they will try to find out the solutions for themselves. But definitely this is the way it should be done according to me also. And I was very much impressed when you said, for a faculty member, research is very essential. Even for teaching and learning, there can be research. Research for teaching, research for learning, and research for knowledge gathering, all are important. I want to mention one line. When I was young, one professor, I don't remember, most probably Professor S.C. Datta Rai of IIT Delhi, he told me, he used to tell me, Vishwanath, not B.N. Chatterjee, Vishwanath, a teacher, a faculty member who does not do research is like a still water. A faculty member who does research is like flowing water. And he used to say, Vishwanath, do you know, a still water stinks, whereas a flowing water does not. So I want to say, bring this message to all the faculty members that, as Professor Nagabhushan mentioned, a faculty member does research throughout his life, every day and night, 24 hours. And even the so-called retirement, I don't think a faculty member retires. Maybe from the institute or university, he will retire, but from the academics, he does not retire. So he has defined what is academy, what is academician, everything so nicely. It's a very impressive, very thought-provoking lecture. And I think this is what it should be done in this type of faculty development program. I am sure there are other good lectures, particularly the next lecture by Professor Chidananda Gowda, who is one of our ideal, and who I don't think we should waste much time because time is already up for starting the new lecture. I know there are a few questions. I don't know whether there is a time for Professor Nagabhushan is eager to answer a few questions, 3-4 questions. But if the time permits, he would do it. Otherwise, the questions can be given to Professor Nagabhushan. He will answer, and this can be uploaded in YouTube, where all the participants can assist.
In fact, for teaching, it should not be for long hours at all. It has got to be, not more than 1 to 1.5 hour lecture. And naturally, you have got to engage them by keeping the class highly interactive, and your ability to look into the eyes of the student, to look into the every pair of eyes of the student is your critical ability. If the teachers turn to the board and start writing, then naturally the students will be tempted to sleep very comfortably because the huge body across the board will prevent even the visibility of the board also. All right, so that's not the point. And naturally, this web-enabled teaching, the distance education is not an answer at all. If web-enabled teaching, distance education could have been the answer, every university in the institution in world could have become open universities only. But then there is a purpose for classroom teaching, interactive teaching, and it has got to be highly interactive. Naturally, the teacher has got to go it in a cycle of every 10 minutes. At the end of every 10 minutes, there must be a small interaction, small relaxation of about, let us say, 30 seconds, and again go to the next point. In fact, they are all called the concepts for the entire subject, concepts for the day. And when we change the concept, we should make a small maneuvering deviation and involve the class back. Okay, that's going to happen. It all happens with the experience. Teaching should not be for long, 2 hours or 3 hours. Teaching has got to be at most for about 90 minutes or so.